Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. If you are listening to this, you are probably still processing what has been, quite frankly, a really frantic few weeks for English rugby,
Oh, absolutely frantic.
right? Because we're deep in the weeds of the 2026 Six Nations right now, and the narrative arc we've witnessed from Grand Slam whispers to sudden crisis talks has been, well, it's been severe.
It is the kind of whiplash that usually takes years to play out,
Yeah.
not just 3 rounds of a tournament.
Exactly. I was actually looking back at the headlines from early February. It feels like a completely different era. England was on this imperious 12-match winning run. They had just dismantled Wales in round one. The pack looked monstrous. The game management was clinical. And now we're picking through the debris of back-to-back losses to Scotland and Ireland.
And we aren't just talking about narrow, unlucky losses here either. I mean, that 42-21 defeat to Ireland in Dublin was described in almost every paper as chastening.
Chastening. Yeah, that is a word that really sticks.
It implies a lesson was taught, and it wasn't a pleasant one.
No, not at all. It changes the entire complexion of the tournament for you as a fan. The title is gone. The Grand Slam dream is totally dead and buried. But oddly enough, that failure provides a very specific kind of freedom. And that is what we are unpacking today.
We have a lot to get through.
We do. We have a searing analysis from Sam Warburton, former Wales captain, British and Irish Lions captain, which was published via Planet Rugby and The Times. He's taken a hard look at where England goes next against Italy on March 7th.
And Warburton is honestly the perfect lens for this because he admits he was wrong. He was one of the pundits calling England the real deal just a month ago.
Right, he completely bought the hype.
He did. So watching him pivot from saying England are back to calling for wholesale changes, well, it tells you just how significant that performance against Ireland really was.
It really does. Now, before we get into the tactical breakdown, specifically the brutal stats surrounding the fly half position, I want to ask you a quick favor. If you care about the granular details of the game, the selection headaches, and the tactical shifts that define the Six Nations, please hit that subscribe button for Rugby Obsession right now. We are going to be tracking every twist and turn of this tournament, and we want you with us.
So let's start with the philosophy of Warburton's piece, because he didn't mince his words regarding Steve Borthwick's selection policy.
No, he really didn't.
Yeah.
The headline quote for me was his assertion that you cannot reward mediocrity in an England shirt.
That is a heavy statement.
It is. It sounds almost punitive, doesn't it? Like he is suggesting heads must roll just to send a message.
I don't think it's punitive, actually. I think it is elite performance management. Warburton's point is that loyalty is a virtue, but blind loyalty is a weakness. England has lost 2 on the bounce. They are sitting 4th in the table. If you trot out the exact same 15 players against Italy and expect a different result, you aren't just being stubborn. You are actively stalling the team's development.
It's the definition of insanity, right?
Sure.
Doing the same thing and expecting different results. And the mission of this deep dive today is to really embrace that constructive criticism. It's an exciting time to look at how new talent gets a chance to shine.
Precisely. And because the championship is mathematically out of reach, the risk profile changes completely. You aren't trying to scrape a win to stay in the title hunt anymore. You're trying to build something that doesn't collapse the next time you play a Tier 1 nation.
Which brings us to the most contentious part of his analysis, the fly half situation.
Oh, this is where the data gets absolutely fascinating. Warburton highlighted a statistic regarding George Ford that I genuinely had to read twice. It paints such a stark picture of a team losing its identity.
It is basically the tale of 2 matches. Look at the Wales game. England won that comfortably. George Ford was the puppet master. He controlled territory. He pinned Wales back. In that match alone, Ford made 980 kick meters.
That is nearly a kilometer of territory gained just from the boot of one player.
It's complete dominance of the aerial battle.
It is a tactical masterclass. Now, compare that to the Ireland game. Same player, ostensibly the same system, but against Ireland, Ford made only 6 kicks. 6 for a total of 151 meters.
Okay, hold on. I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. We know England was losing that game pretty much from the jump. If you are down by 14 or 20 points, surely you have to stop kicking. The fans would go absolutely mental if they saw Ford kicking possession away when they needed to score tries to catch up.
All right.
Isn't that just adapting to the scoreboard?
See, that is the common pub logic, but Warburton completely rejects it, and this is where his experience as a captain is invaluable. He argues that chasing the game is a trap.
How so?
His logic is simple. Why did you pick that game plan in the first place? You picked it because you believed it was the best way to score points and apply pressure.
Right.
If you are down 10 points with 60 minutes left on the clock, which England was, why would you abandon the strategy that you know works?
So by stopping the kicking game, you're actually making it harder to score.
Exactly. You are trying to reinvent the wheel in real time. Warburton says you don't panic until maybe the last 5 or 10 minutes, but England abandoned their kicking structure in the first half. They stopped doing the one thing they are elite at.
And that 151-meter stat proves they lost their strategic clarity. They tried to run everything and just got strangled by the Irish defense.
It does. And while Warburton is careful to say Ford is still a fine player and brings massive experience, he believes this collapse in strategy opens the door. If the current plan isn't holding up under pressure and the title is gone, why not look at the alternative?
The alternative being Finn Smith.
Yes, Warburton is calling for Finn Smith to start at 10 against Italy.
This isn't just about giving a young guy a cap, though, is it? It feels like a very specific tactical pivot. What does Smith give you that Ford doesn't?
It is about the ceiling. We know George Ford's game inside out. He is reliable. He is a great distributor. But Smith has shown flashes, especially during that run last spring, where he started 4 games of a much higher attacking ceiling. He takes the ball flatter. He challenges the line differently.
And Warburton's argument is that you rarely get a free hit in Test rugby. Playing Italy in Rome when you aren't chasing a Grand Slam is the perfect laboratory.
Correct. If you play Smith now, you find out if he can run the show. If you play Ford, what do you learn? You already know he can beat Italy. You learn nothing new.
That makes total sense. It is about investment. You are investing caps now to potentially reap the rewards at the World Cup.
And it sends a message to the squad. No one owns the jersey. If the performance drops, like it did with the abandonment of the kicking strategy, the jersey goes to the next man up.
I want to pause there for a second because this fly half debate is the one that always divides families and friendship groups. Everyone have their favorite. So I want to ask you, listening right now, what do you think about the fly half debate? Is dropping George Ford the right move? Or is that throwing the baby out with the bathwater after one bad game against the best team in the world?
It is a massive call to make.
It is. If you are enjoying this level of tactical scrutiny, please make sure you hit that subscribe button for Rugby Obsession. We are going to be breaking down the team sheets as soon as they drop, and you won't want to miss that analysis.
The fly half change is definitely the headline, but Warburton didn't stop there. He used the phrase 6 or 7 changes.
Which is drastic. That is nearly half the team. In the modern game, continuity is usually king. So proposing 6 or 7 changes suggests he thinks the problems against Ireland were systemic, not just a bad day at the office.
He is looking for a spark. He wants to see that next-gen opportunity. Let's look at the back line first. We have got Smith at 10. Who does he want outside him?
At inside center, the number 12 shirt, he is advocating for Max Ojomoh.
Ojomoh is an interesting one. He had that breakout performance against Argentina previously.
He did. He looked electric. But then he seemed to fall down the pecking order behind Fraser Dingwall.
Dingwall is a very safe pair of hands, very defensive-minded. Ojomoh brings chaos. He has that ability to step, to offload in contact. If you are pairing him with Finn Smith, you are signaling a desire to play with much more width and tempo.
And to complete that attacking spine, he wants George Furbank at fullback.
Furbank is non-negotiable for Warburton here. Again, it is about threat. Furbank acts almost as a second playmaker. He inserts himself into the line. If England wants to stress the Italian defense, Furbank gives you more options than a traditional kick-heavy fullback.
So the backline vision is clear. Speed, distribution, and attacking intent. But as we know, a pretty backline is useless if you don't win the ball. This is where the pack changes come in, and there is one name that has got everyone talking.
Henry Pollock.
This kid seems to be the real deal. Warburton singled him out specifically regarding the Ireland game.
He did, and the context is important here. Pollock came off the bench when England were getting battered, the game was gone, morale was low, and yet Warburton noted he had the most energy in the team.
What does that actually look like on the field, though? When we say energy, are we just talking about running around a line?
It is effective energy. It is line speed, getting off the defensive line faster than anyone else to chop the ball carrier. It is the kick chase, sprinting 40 meters to contest a high ball. It is getting back to your feet instantly after a tackle to compete for the ball. Warburton's point is that Pollock brought an intensity that the starters lacked.
So the argument is, why wait until the 60th minute to inject that intensity? Start him.
Exactly. Unleash him from the first whistle. Warburton wants a back row of Sam Underhill, Ben Earl, and Henry Pollock.
That is a fascinating balance. Underhill is your destroyer. He tackles anything that moves. Ben Earl is your dynamic carrier. He breaks the gain line. And Pollock is your chaos agent.
It is a very modern, mobile back row. It might lack a little bit of height for the line out, but on the ground, in the breakdown, they should be an absolute nightmare for Italy to deal with.
And he also wants Jamie George back starting at hooker, which I assume is to provide some leadership amidst all this youth.
Yes, you need a steady hand on the tiller. Jamie George runs the set piece. You can have all the young talent in the world, but if your lineout doesn't function, you cannot launch tacks. George ensures the platform is stable.
We should clarify who Warburton is actually defending here, too. He's not calling for a total clear-out. He was very specific that Ellis Genge and Ollie Chessum need to stay.
They are the physical bedrock. You don't drop your enforcers just because you lost. You need them to protect the new guys.
But then we get to Maro Itoje. This was a really nuanced part of the analysis. Warburton admitted Itoje is clearly not at his best.
Which is putting it politely. Itoje has looked tired. He hasn't had that dominant nuisance presence we are used to.
So why keep him? If mediocrity cannot be rewarded, surely Itoje is on the chopping block.
That is the paradox. Warburton argues that Itoje is too important to the structural integrity of the team to drop. He believes you don't fix a player like Itoje by sending him to the stands. You fix him by playing him back into form. He needs minutes to find his rhythm.
It is a massive gamble. If he plays poorly against Italy, the calls to drop him will be deafening.
They will. But Warburton is betting that surrounded by the fresh energy of Pollock and Earl, Itoje might find his spark again.
All of these changes, Smith, Ojomoh, Pollock, they rely on Steve Borthwick being willing to make them. And this brings us to the final and perhaps most telling part of the analysis, the ruthlessness of the head coach.
This was the moment in the Ireland game that really made people sit up and take notice. Borthwick hooked Luke Cowan-Dickie and Freddie Stewart before halftime.
I cannot stress enough how rare that is in professional rugby. Unless there is an injury, you almost never see a tactical substitution after 35 minutes. It's humiliating for the player.
It is brutal. It destroys confidence. But Borthwick did it. He saw the ship sinking and he tried to plug the holes immediately. Warburton's take is that Borthwick has shown he has that ruthless streak in him. He isn't afraid to hurt feelings.
And the argument now follows. If you're willing to sub a guy off after 35 minutes because he's not performing, surely you have to be willing to leave him out of the squad for the next game.
Exactly. You cannot be ruthless on match day and then sentimental on selection day. That ruthlessness needs to be consistent. If Stewart and Cowan-Dickie weren't good enough to finish the first half, they shouldn't be starting against Italy.
It sets a precedent, doesn't it? It puts the entire squad on notice. Perform, or you won't even make it to the oranges at halftime.
It is a high-performance culture. It is uncomfortable, but it is how you win championships eventually. Borthwick needs to channel that ruthlessness into this wholesale change strategy. Trust the youth. Trust the next-gen opportunity.
It feels like a pivotal week. If Borthwick reverts to type and picks the same safe squad, the fan base might turn. But if he rolls the dice with Pollock and Smith, suddenly the Italy game becomes must-watch TV.
It transforms the narrative from a dead rubber to the beginning of a new era, and that is incredibly exciting. You want to see who the stars of the 2027 World Cup might be. You might see them run out in Rome.
It really is the silver lining to the cloud of the last 2 weeks. We might look back at that Dublin defeat as the moment the torch was passed.
Often the biggest leaps forward come after the hardest falls. Warburton is banking on this being one of those moments.
So to recap the mission as Warburton sees it, stop rewarding mediocrity. If the stats show the strategy failed, like the kicking game changed the personnel executing it, bring in Finn Smith. Bring in Henry Pollock. And use the Italy match to build a team with higher energy and a higher ceiling.
It is bold, it is risky, and it is exactly what England needs.
I completely agree. It is time to be brave. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought that builds on everything Warburton proposed today. We've talked exclusively about England. But next year is a British and Irish Lions tour.
Ah, yes.
Warburton is a former Lions captain himself. If Borthwick displays this level of ruthlessness and drops established stars like Ford or Stewart, what does that do to their Lions prospects? If you can't get into an English squad trying to rebuild against Italy, Andy Farrell certainly isn't going to take you to play the Southern Hemisphere Giants. This selection on Thursday doesn't just impact the Six Nations. It could end Lions' careers before they even begin.
That is a brilliant point. The stakes are much higher than just one game in Rome.
They really are. Do you agree with Warburton's wholesale changes? Which young player are you most excited to see? Let us know. And if you enjoyed this discussion and want to stay updated on all our deep dives, please hit subscribe for Rugby Obsession. We appreciate every single one of you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.